All right. Today, I think, it's a sad occasion. We're going to have to give out our first apology.
Yeah, we've fought against giving apologies, but we got to start with one today.
So we at Hate Speech famously don't give out apologies. We're perfect at every time. But this time we messed up. We bungled it.
We fucked up real bad, and this is just our I'm sorry.
Yeah, we are sorry, not just you. This isn't on you. This is on both of us.
This is on Tyler and Nate.
So today's episode, we're talking about Gamergate 2. That's our first apology. Our second apology is that we didn't do our research. There was an episode of Law and Order that specifically talked about this topic, starring Logan Paul as angry gamer.
Yeah, we apologize. We're going to watch it after this, but about 10 minutes ago, we learned that this was a thing.
Game on, NYPD.
Where's that coming from?
Next Wednesday, ripped from the headlines.
This is a game to them.
What's the next level?
A violent video game inspires a real crime.
Prepare to be slaughtered.
We'll watch it.
Well, we're trying to do better. We're growing. We're learning. For example, for our object of penance, we decided to be more accepting and diverse. So we bought gay wine.
Yes, we bought the wokest wine we could find.
Yeah. So this is house wine. Rosé bubbles. We're drinking it because we're doing growth and learning here.
Yeah, and also it was clearance. It was about 70% off.
No, you don't have to tell them that.
I figured with us apologizing, we'd want to be as open as honest as possible, and that's kind of what we're doing.
I get the rainbow bottle, but like what? Oh, house wine. Like okay, all right.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of,
and is it a sparkling pink?
Oh yeah,
we should.
Pour it for me.
I'll pour you a glass.
Is it a Moscato?
It's rosé. It's pink, which is like it feels like an appropriate color, I guess. I don't know.
It's pink carbonated. Don't ask about the vintage, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Okay.
And joining us on our first apology episode is Christopher Gadsden, Juniper Ness from the Mindful Wellness Twitter Space podcast. How are y'all? What's going on?
Well,
doing good.
Yeah, if I was doing any better, I wouldn't be able to stand it.
It's Halloween vibes in the air.
It's good that you mentioned that, since this will be coming out like 2 weeks after Halloween.
Yeah. But like it's also like Thanksgiving vibes, I would say.
It's giving thanks.
That's right, to a ghost. Welcome to Hate Speech.
Let's have a chat about hate.
Got the problem, wanna talk about it, let it boil over, blow the temper, call this hate and speech. Hate speech, hate speech! You know you can't hold it in no more! You are only as great as what you hate! Once the taste is on your tongue, you'll only crave.
That is right. Welcome to Hate Speech, the podcast about hating things. I'm Tyler, and over there is Nate.
Yeah. I think we went over our heads on this one. I feel like, are you familiar with LA Beast? Does everyone here know about LA Beast?
No clue.
He's the guy who drank like 5 gallons of olive oil.
I don't think this is too healthy. This is, once again, probably a little less than a gallon. 100% pure olive oil. That's it. I'm done. I'm the LA Beast. I just consumed 24,000 calories. 2,800 grams of fat. I think I have to go to the hospital for real this time.
Oh God.
And like LA Beast, I was like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm pretty resilient when it comes to this, like shotgunning a lot of actual hate speech. I feel like I have a strong body and mind. I was unprepared. I was so sad for like a couple days going through this stuff.
Yeah. Mindful Wellness, a podcast, Twitter space that preaches about cleaning up the dirty thoughts in your head, like providing a space where you can get well. What made you want to do Gamergate 2? Are y'all harboring some real pain in you need to get out or that you need to put on other people?
Are we harboring pain? What kind of question is that?
I've been reading a book saying
That's sort of the point of the show.
I've been reading a book about how to ask better questions, and "Are you harboring pain?" was an example.
See, mine's more of a storage facility of hope. So I don't know what you two are doing.
Yeah. What made y'all want to talk about Gamergate 2?
Well, for me, it like a lot of other culture war topics, it's got a very, very simple answer for why people feel the way that they do about video games as they grow older. As it becomes harder to relax, to enjoy things, to have the frame of mind that is necessary to some degree to listen to an album, to watch a movie, but definitely to immerse yourself in somebody's artistic attempt to create an alternate reality, right? That's a pretty high demand you're putting on your brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
It gets harder as you get older to do that. And
because of all the women and minorities and gay people that are there.
Well,
it breaks your immersion.
Yes, that is one of the central claims, is that these guys, not so much the first time came around. We are on Gamergate 2 now.
Yeah, I didn't know there was sequels.
Gamergate 1, okay, much like, a good series of horror films, Gamergate 1 was mostly about things that were happening in the real world. But Gamergate 2 ups the ante by being mostly about things that are happening in the simulacrum. Okay? With a few holdouts, there's a few guys that think it's still Gamergate 1 that spend a lot of time harassing journalists.
I mean, they
still mad about Vic Mignon.
Yes.
So I just want to establish a baseline of these terms, because not everyone is familiar with Gamergate 1 and 2. What's a sequel headline there? It's Revenge of the Ooze. I don't know.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
DEI and die.
Yeah, sure. Yes. Okay, good. That's a good one. So Gamergate 1, I don't know how how based in reality that thing was really. I think it was
about ethics in games journalism.
The weird thing about that is that there really was never any ethics in game journalism, because games journalism is probably the most access-based form. It's more access-based than the White House.
Right.
You could literally call the press secretary a fucking bitch and you would still be back in the next administration, right?
Oh yeah. No, and famously people get fired for giving bad reviews to games that are sponsoring sites. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like 70s radio where there are payola scandals. It's obvious that there are payola scandals with games coverage.
There's payola but no scandal.
Right. But that said, I do want to defend the game journalists out there.
Oh boy, here we go.
There's one. Jeff Gerstmann got fired for saying that Red Dead Redemption was just too much filler.
No, that's it was Kanan Lich 2 was the game he got fired over.
Oh, that's right. Oh God.
And he got fired from GameSpot because they had a big splash screen on the website. But we can't go that far back. We gotta go to present-ish times.
Hey, Juniper, you want to step outside with me and let these nerds just talk?
I gotta be full transparent here. I play and know a lot about video games. I'm one of those people, but cool.
He's one of the good gamers.
True. And also I'm a game developer. I go out and make games. I talk with these people. In fact,
oh no shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, something I didn't know about the first Gamergate is a guy I know was actually he was the guy. Yeah. I was like, oh wait, I know that guy. I didn't bring up Gamergate at the time because my heart was still pure. But I was like, oh yeah, no, I met him before. And so they're the it's a very small community. But the people that stay in it are passionate about the things that they're writing about, because there's no other reason to do it. It's not for the money.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, despite the fact that it is pretty much access based, Gerstmann, the guy we mentioned earlier, still does it, on his own independent things because he loves it. And even guys that, know what the line is and choose not to cross it, still great writing in a lot of cases.
Right.
Still pretty much the best way to find out, something more about the product, or, if you want to, chart ahead, what you're going to do. I find I don't have to do that as much as I used to do. When you're a kid, you just don't really have anything else to think about except whatever cartridge is,
Oh,
But
yeah,
now there's so much stuff now. I don't think I just kind of sit down and whatever's popping, that's what that's going to be.
That landscape has changed so much that I don't recognize it anymore. Right.
Right.
But to go back to Gamergate 1, the whole idea of ethics in gamer journalism is a joke, right? Because that's not what it was about at all.
And there's no ethics in any journalism, really.
But don't even give it the time of day, because that's not what they were mad about, really. Right?
What were they mad about?
They were mad about feminism.
Oh, no.
They heard about it for the first time. They wait, women have feelings. Have you heard of this?
Wait, you're telling me broads have a rich inner world?
That's right. And they might even like video games sometimes, too.
Wow.
Juniper, I gotta ask, as the female representative.
Don't do that to Juniper. How dare you?
I'm sorry.
Let me speak for her.
Do you like games? Do you play games?
I do. I used to be a lot more immersed in the game world. Not so much these days. I just don't have the fucking time or the money.
Yeah.
Or the technology, really. My computer will play some shit, but I'm sorry.
No. You can say whatever you want.
I have a beep. I'm going to find it now, just for you.
Yeah, you're just going to need to tap at that AK-47 style.
Okay,
there you go.
It's ready.
But yeah, looking at the prices for the consoles, I don't have that kind of money.
It's an investment, right? There's a reason why people in that community call it a hobby, because it takes up a lot of time, and you can't have any other hobby. It's all consuming.
I had always been a little self-conscious of my modern gaming, because I know that gaming means a lot to a lot of people. And there's a lot in gaming, like indie gaming, AAA gaming, all these games that I have no fucking clue what about. And after doing all the research and watching all these gamers try to express themselves, I'm going to stick with what I've been doing and letting Nate keep curating my game experience. Because when you tell me I need to play something, I play that and I'm happy.
Yeah. Right. If somebody I personally know is oh, this is really fun. Or I catch a stream of somebody playing something and I'm like, oh, that looks pretty dope. I'll put it on my Steam wish list and get it when it goes on sale. But I'm definitely more of what would call a casual gamer these days.
Yes, me as well.
Good round of extreme power washer or something like that. That's about my speed. You laughed, LG. That's an actual game.
No, as an American Truck Simulator user, I understand. It sucks because I like video games. I play them a lot. I know a stupid amount, and I don't like telling people that, right? Because of gamers.
Yeah,
we hate gamers. Mm-hmm. I hate gamers.
I hate them.
They all suck. I think that at this point, anyone who self-identifies strongly as gamers, it sends that kind of tickle down my spine of I don't know if I want to talk to this person. Right.
Something that at this point pretty much everyone does some amount. If that is your main descriptor, that is a red flag.
Yeah. Right. And so my hope is that at the end of Gamergate 2, there's this whole punk movement, but nerdier, of fascist fuck off kind of a sentiment, right? I mean, there's been mild attempts at that, but a lot of it has just been kind of defensive, where it's okay, we'll create our cool spaces and invite you in instead of the other way around. We're actually, no, you need to leave and do your own hate corner, right?
Which they shouldn't, because that's what we do.
Oh, shit.
We do the hate corner.
Yeah, well, that's what they felt with Gamergate 1, is that they finally saw people critiquing the things that they liked because there were problematic things in them, right?
Yes.
And so that eventually came to a head. I don't know.
When Trump got elected?
Yeah, like when did that stop? I don't know if it ever actually did.
Where do you land on the OG jump off? I always tell people when this thing comes up, the first one, that the Sarkeesian video essays are actually pretty good. Some of them go maybe a little too far in certain directions, but they're good video essays, and they're good compilations of all the dumb stuff, like putting a pink bow on a yellow globe and calling it Mrs. Pac-Man. Like, they're pretty good compilations of those things.
One way to think about damseled characters is via what's called the subject-object dichotomy. In the simplest terms, subjects act, and objects are acted upon. The subject is the protagonist, the one who the story is centered on, and the one doing most of the action. In video games, this is almost always the main playable character, and the one from whose perspective most of the story is seen. So the damsel trope typically makes men the subject of narratives, while relegating women to the role of object. This is a form of objectification because as objects, damseled women are being acted upon, most often becoming or reduced to a prize to be won, a treasure to be found, or a goal to be achieved. At its heart, the damsel trope is not really about women at all. She simply becomes the central object in a competition between men, at least in its traditional incarnations. I've heard it said that in the game of patriarchy, women are not the opposing team, they are the ball.
Yeah, it's like feminism 101. Like, you know, it's the basic introduction of like the thoughts and arguments, and like and is good, right? Like if you want to know, you should watch them. And they're actually not bad, and they're not long too. I think they're like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I watched a few of them in preparation for this because I wanted to see what they were so mad about, and it's like, wow, these people aren't going to be happy until every game is just Custer's revenge.
Nice one. I'm proud of you.
I mean, I'm not wrong.
No, yeah, sure.
It's good that you bring up Custer's Revenge because it always, people made the prediction early on, like, okay, you know, the VCR sold because it was a way for people to not have to go to the beat-off theater anymore. You know what I mean? Like, people always have made that prediction about video games as a new form of media that, oh, it's going to be really important. But it kind of isn't, because it kind of doesn't work that hot. Like, I mean, maybe there's some kind of explicitly adult three-dimensional sex game out there that you play with a VR headset that would blow me out of my pants that I just haven't played. But I don't think there is. I think everything pretty much. Do you know that pretty much comes out like Custer's Revenge, right? I mean,
I hate to break it to you, some of the highest selling games on the Steam store are just porno games.
Right,
like hentai feet.
I get a lot of ads for them in my Twitter feed.
Oh yeah, like sexy lady steals your levels or whatever.
I mean, it's something that's hard. It's something that's hard to get right. Like I feel like, okay, Baldur's Gate 3 is about as good as anybody's ever done to make it seem like it goes there, to make it seem like it's not weird that that's what the scene transitioned to. But like, if you look back to stuff like Mass Effect, that is the weirdest. You want to talk about immersion breaking? Okay. To get down with anybody in Mass Effect, my immersion is over. Okay.
Sounds like someone's not a fan of calibrations.
Well, I love calibrations. Don't even get started. But like, Mass Effect is a good example because it's the type of game that like, I loved Mass Effect, but I wouldn't play it around my parents because of the big titties. And like, like, that's why like these kind of conversations are important for the health of the gaming ecosystem, is because ultimately like its default behavior is incredibly horny, incredibly sexist, and incredibly white. Like that is the triangle there. Well, I guess the horny and sexiness probably go hand, sexism go hand in hand.
Well, like the white part of the triangle's the bigger one, the two smaller angles.
No, we got to give up on triangles. but I mean, like, so that, I guess that's Gamergate 1, is this like a lot of people got very mad and sent out a lot of death threats to very innocent game developers.
Yeah.
And so here we are in the 2024, and Gamergate 2, I guess, has come back.
Yeah, and all the stars are here.
So, somehow Gamergate 2 has returned. And I guess like the one connecting thread, because I was like, what does this even have to do with the original Gamergate, is that Anita Sarkeesian, the person who did the Feminist Frequency videos, was associated with Sweet Baby Inc., which is the
consultant agency with Kim Belair as their CEO. I became an expert in Sweet Baby Inc. this week.
Yeah,
I did not know
like
that.
Right up there with Pepe Sylvia.
That's great.
I watched so many videos of these. So I usually have a beard. I shaved my beard today because I kept watching all these gamer videos, and they're all white guys with beards spitting at the camera about pronouns. And I thought, I can't be that anymore. I'm just cutting this all off. And they all kept going back to this one lady, Kim Belair, the CEO of Sweet Baby Inc.
Lay out what Gamergate 2 is. Like, how's it different than ethics in gaming journalism?
So Gamergate 2, from what I can tell, is the idea that DEI,
we love it,
diversity, whatever, they claim that gay and black people have been shoved into games in a way that, quote, breaks the immersion.
Hold on, and women.
Yep. And women.
That's the triangle. Messed up the triangle.
Oh, fuck
it is LGBTQ.
Yeah.
Black people. Usually specifically black people. I never see anyone.
Specifically one black woman who used to be on Mad TV that they're all up in arms about. I think she's hot and cool.
Yeah.
Deborah, what's her name?
I mean, she's essentially the Sean Bean of games right now, which is fine. It's like, she's back.
No, so they're mad.
Didn't she have that gig in that Wolfenstein?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I thought well delivered for lines in a flippin' modern Wolfenstein. I don't know. I don't know how you're supposed to read that stuff and come off. She did it,
And I remember this mother and son. This boy was blindly stumbling through the chaos. His arms were outstretched, calling out for his mama. And the heat from the bomb had melted the skin on his arms, and they just drooped. Like he was wearing a shirt that was a couple of sizes too big.
I'm not sure how they've contorted themselves into this where they believe that the woke left have inserted gay themes, black themes, and women themes into modern games as a way to fight them in the culture war, when I believe any gay themes, black themes, or women themes are there because a demographic has shifted that shows us that gay people, women people, and black people pay for and play video games now.
No, but you don't understand, though. You don't understand because they're not letting the art breathe. You see, they're forcing their agenda into the art, and that's what breaks the immersion.
It's so funny because there are so many gay gamers out there that spend a lot of money on games, right? And how can you not know that other people don't exist that play games? I mean, I guess they don't know, right? Like, they don't have these friends outside of their own white circles, right?
Is it that they don't know, or that they don't care and they don't want that to be true?
Well,
I think in some ways it gets caught up in this idea of who's allowed to play,
yes,
right? Mm-hmm. Who's allowed in the clubhouse, the gamer clubhouse? Mm-hmm. I'm in there, and all my neckbeard buddies are in there, and it's you are the people that you associate with.
And I know it smelled crazy in there.
Exactly. And you can't let a lot of bleeps in there.
Oh, yeah. But if
you want it to be for you. And
if you've played any amount of online games and a woman shows up, you immediately know how the entire group is going to react, and you hate it.
Yeah.
Right? Because it immediately becomes this call out of either we're going to turn you into what we want, right? Like sexy babe, please date us. Or we're going to immediately make you so disgusted that you leave, right? And it's still that way.
Yeah.
And you're right. It ruins their immersion of being the heroes of reality, right?
Mm-hmm. Hey, yo, is that a gamer girl? Boys,
gamer girl.
You dumb?
Stop sounding so sexy, baby.
Go back to the kitchen. Hey, dude, you're a female, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
So let me go back to Sweet Baby Inc. because they've sort of become the poster for this.
Yeah.
Or the main target. So they're a consultant company. Head wokesters. That's absolutely right. But they're a consultant company. Boo. I say that as someone who hates consultant companies.
I mean,
but I'm going to defend them. And I was
about to say.
And I hate that gamers have pushed me into a place where I have to defend consultants.
Can I rebrand these consultants, please?
Yes.
They're editors.
Yes.
Right? There's a whole other word out there called sensitivity reader.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, I'm making a game and I want to include a black character and I wrote this character. Did I fuck up? Right? Or like what's missing? What shouldn't be there? Like, help me out.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of the service of what they provide, among other things. Right.
Yeah.
Or companies, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like that every AAA company had to do this after Capcom coming off the success of Resident Evil 4, one of their biggest hits of all time.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
Franchise. Everybody was playing it. Every horror game and a lot of action games imitate the style of Resident Evil 4. Goes to all platforms. Everybody loves it. Resident Evil 4, hooray! We're so excited for Resident Evil 5. We're so excited.
I let our miserable insects out for some exercise down in the sewer.
Thanks. That should keep me company, because boredom kills me.
I feel like after Capcom fumbled the bag on Resident Evil 5, isn't that
how did they fumble that? What was fumbled them?
Well, Resident Evil 5 is an able successor to Resident Evil 4 in many ways. The sort of action, that was kind of ramping up, a little more special powers, a little more cool moves, You see that developing. There's a partner system. Chris is partnered with another character that is always involved, and it's the end of the useless escort mission subject. It's the end of the weakling who you just have to guide around. It's you and your powerful partner together in a tribal village in Africa, massacring a bunch of guys that look like extras from the Michael Caine movie, because they all got the zombie virus and they're wearing like voodoo masks and shit.
It was very Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah.
But it's okay though, because your partner was also black. So
she was black, so she gave Chris the shoot the black people card. It was okay.
Wait, yeah, Shiva made mistakes.
They let a woman be a character?
Yes.
Well, I mean,
they did.
Yeah.
It's a muscular black lady, and just because the game is now viewed as transgressive, I saw her in a post of like how cool games used to be from one of these Gamergate assholes.
Jesus
There's a
Christ.
picture of Sheva from Resident Evil 5. They were like, this is when it was good. You motherfucker, if that came out today.
I mean, they're always running for protection, right? Of just like, I was watching a video where they're like, listen, black people have been games forever and nobody's had a problem. Nobody's forced them in since, right? Like, look at this. We have 50 Cent, Blood in the Sand. And, right. And like, Death Jam, Fight for New York. There's plenty of black people on covers. And I'm just like, you see the problem, right? They're all rappers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's almost like there's a lack of diversity of black people. It's not like games didn't have black people in them. It's just they didn't have humans in them. They had like, black characters in them.
So the CEO of Sweet Baby Inc. actually made a good point about this. When she mentions this in the speech that has so much heat on it. She says when she played Mass Effect, she made a character that looked like her, a black woman. Mm-hmm. And the first character she met was a black man, Jacob from Mass Effect.
Okay.
And she said it felt truly empowering, two black characters on screen together existing as characters, not being black characters.
Yeah.
They were just existing together, not being black. And she said she wanted to get into game developing to create things like that.
But anyway, the first time that I actually made a black protagonist was in Mass Effect in 2010. And that felt really, really great. And I know that everyone at GDC has seen a lot about Mass Effect. So many talk about Mass Effect, so I think it's very important. But for anyone who's never played it, I'm just going to give you like a little rundown of the first playable area. Basically, your fully customized Commander Shepard has to enter a space station and rendezvous with two characters, Jacob Taylor and Miranda Lawson. But you meet Jacob first. And for those of you who don't know, Jacob is a black man. He's a Marine. And he's your first kind of like point of contact. So your first interaction with him, you're like crouching behind cover and you're having like a close quarters conversation. And when this happened in the game, it was this really powerful and remarkable moment for me because it was two black characters talking one-on-one, and neither of them is cast as a criminal. They're not a sidekick. They're not a savage. They're not a stereotype. They're not a gang member. And they're the only two people on screen in this moment talking about something much greater than them. And it was just like really, really, really nice.
Is there a black Bechdel test? What is that?
The Bechdel test.
Yeah, the Bechdel. Mass Effect passed the Bechdel test. Good for it. And it's funny because like if you look, I mean, the gaming industry has just been poisoned for anyone that's not a cis white male.
Yeah.
I mean, like, specifically, the one thing that really opened my eyes to this was, like, you and I were big WoW players, World of Warcraft players.
Yeah.
And I just thought the game was fine until I made a black friend. And it's Oregon. There's not many black people. I wasn't avoiding black people.
Yeah, which is like, we shouldn't, like, this Gamergate 2 stuff shouldn't have hurt us so bad because we grew up in Oregon. We should be inoculated. But no, the hate is wild out there.
Yeah, but I want to talk about this because he said, dude, the trolls are black Jamaicans.
You be careful, man. Be seeing ya. Stay away from the voodoo.
Like they were all like very like stereotypical, you know, darkest of Africa, Jamaican shamans. And it was like the idea that that never really connected to me as being racist kind of opened my eyes a little bit. Like, oh, I've been living in the bubble. Yes. I didn't realize I was in the bubble. Because that just happens if you check all of the boxes of what those games were targeted towards. I was a straight white young man.
Yeah.
So,
and if you are that demographic, you don't necessarily notice the absence of people who aren't you in the games, or if there is someone who's not like you on the screen, how they're represented. It doesn't click in your head the same way,
especially
as it
women,
does,
right?
Right, like or you know, any kind of I don't want to be like marginalized community, but you know, like if you're you know, but like when you see someone who is supposed to be like you, say, represented in these things, sometimes the characterizations can kind of leave a bad taste in your mouth if you're not the target audience.
Or even if a lot of these guys that just want to play dolls because, you know, they didn't let us play dolls, you know. A lot of these guys, of course, want to play with the kind of dolls that they weren't allowed to have when they was a kid, which is, oh, I want it to be a hot lady. I want it to be a Barbie doll every time. So I think there's a little objection, too, to the absence of that. Like, just as many of these guys that are like, not only do I want the protagonist in a story-driven game to be similar to me, you know, cis white dude, but if I'm going to have some other kind of cool character, I need all the hot lady slider options. Like, they just kind of considered that like a base installed feature of these things going forward. And it, you know, there's Korean companies now that Nexion just doing like a free to play like Destiny, except the girl has a bigger butt. I mean, there's always going to be somebody who's going to be making this stuff. So it's not like they should be worried about that. Somebody's always going to sell them sex dolls, you know, in various degrees of like quality of what the action game is or whatever. It's eventually going to get to where you can just buy a competent shooter that has the sex dolls in it. I'm sure it already is, but they act like they're really afraid that that's going to go away, which is strange.
And the things that they nitpick on for like, I had sent something out to you guys when we were talking about this, because, you know, somebody's like, oh, you know, they're fucking up the women. They're all butch and manly. And they were talking about the new Lara Croft. And somebody's like, fuck you talking about? Because he was like, oh, she's too masculine.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk about Larry Croft. Yes, that Larry Croft, the brand new animation from Netflix.
I mean, really, when you've got a smoking hot kick-ass woman as your main character, action, adventure, and exotic locations, how can you really go wrong?
What face is that?
My thinking one.
Tomb Raider is a fucking embarrassment that shames the very name of Lara Croft.
And there's that screenshot of like the show, and he's like, or the game, and he's circling in red, like the areas. I sincerely have no idea what he's talking about with her arms. Like there's no muscle definition. Like it's not like she's like a power lifter.
Well, yeah, I mean, these guys are all into like...
There's something apparently about her that he finds manly.
Well, yeah, like she has, like she's not like a big-titted, you know, stripper.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's the problem they have.
She doesn't have like, huge titties and a fat ass.
Right, which is bad for mountain climbing. Like I'm not a mountain climber. I don't do bouldering. But if I had giant titties, like that would get in the way. That would maybe make me not be able to be a Lara Croft.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
your back would hurt all the time.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be wearing clothes that you'd be like breastily boobing out of. Like you'd be packing those puppies down, like to get them out of the way.
Just be naked. just, if you're going for it. I should climb naked.
This is a lady who kills people and then spreads her shit. That's the game they want.
I mean, honestly, like feral Lara Croft. she just starts eating a little bit of people.
Oh, she killed a skeleton and now she's grabbing her tits at the camera. That's all they want. They want that shit.
They do though. They're stupid.
But here's the thing that like starts the itch in the back of my head. Can you imagine me like being like, ugh, but fucking Halo, they ruined it. Master Chief just isn't fuckable enough.
I mean, the answer is no, because like, yeah.
Like, it sounds ridiculous coming from me, but
yeah,
for these fellas,
it's totally a one-way street.
These fellas, they don't see that as being a ridiculous argument.
Well, because they don't see women as much as as much of a person as they are. Right? That's what it boils down to. Right?
They're not people at all.
Yeah, it's just like
they're femoids.
I get certain rights. You don't get those rights. You know, you don't get to find Master Chief sexy. Only I get to find Master Chief's internal sexy robot sexy. Yeah, you know.
But
it's crazy to me when I looked at Gamergate 1 and then again at Gamergate 2. It's just insane to me how all the villains in these stories for the gamers just happen to be women.
You should bust out the term that you discovered yesterday about the Adam's apple.
Oh yeah, do you know what an Adam's apple is called when it's on a woman character? It's called a madam's apple. and they talked about this while talking about Ellie from the hit sequel, The Gash of Us 2.
Yeah.
Like, it is kind of funny, but I'm not saying they're right. I'm just saying I appreciate good wordplay.
Well, they aim at these women who assert themselves and say that women, people of color, marginalized identities, they have agency, they have rich inner worlds, they're people, they're going to get a spot in the game. And the CEO of Sweet Baby Inc. made waves saying, hey, if your higher ups aren't willing to listen to you, you blackmail them into listening to you. And I gotta say, she's kind of right. People in positions of power, more often than not, tend to be cis white people.
Oh yeah,
who are caring more about their bottom line.
People would, like, if the upper echelons of game developing companies were diverse, Sweet Baby Inc. wouldn't have a job, right? Because like, we have a black writer. Like, get him to write the script. You know, that we don't need to hire a consultant. He has lived experience of being black.
The thing that they complain about, and I want to throw this to the group, the thing that they complain about is that DEI stuff will use that term to mean all. I
mean, they use that, like game companies use the term too. Like
they use the term.
Yeah, it's not.
They feel like it's forced in there against their will. A prime example being in Spider-Man 2, the game, where Miles Morales becomes the protagonist. Halfway through, they sideline their perfect little white Spider-Man so that the young black Spider-Man with a deaf black girlfriend who you get to play as. You get to play as the deaf girlfriend to do graffiti. They think that was forced diversity. Do you think that this stuff is being forced in?
I thought like the Miles Morales conversation was done.
No,
because I'm a sweet baby, and I did not know that racism was still going on. Because like I thought like people
there's
were cool
always
with Miles
racism
Morales.
going on, Nate.
I mean, like, hey, listen, I have my bubble. I live in a racist neighborhood, so there are no black people. You know, like it's like you have to actively go out and seek this stuff out, which is actually part of why I love doing hate speech, is because I am still ignorant of like how bad people can get sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the point, though, is that I thought people were okay with Miles Morales because of all the media around Miles Morales, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, Into the Spider-Verse was immensely popular.
No, so there's this idea in gamers now that they were hoodwinked because they thought they were buying a Spider-Man game, but then they brought in Miles Morales. So now there's a growing movement to hashtag boycott Wolverine because they think the new Wolverine game is going to have you play as the girl Wolverine halfway through.
See, I thought they were going to make Wolverine gay.
It's the Metal Gear 2 thing again.
It's the what?
It's the Metal Gear 2 thing. They're still traumatized from the Metal Gear 2 prank that got played on them.
That was so
Kojima.
funny, though.
It was really funny. Really funny.
As someone who will proudly, full-throatedly say Metal Gear Solid 2 is their favorite Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
God.
Bring back the Twinks.
Yeah. I knew Fat Man well.
Yeah.
So, we're sorry, Juniper. It's
so much better when it gets to the climactic point of that game where the AI kernel is telling you the speech about like how the robots are going to have to control social media and filter out all the garbage information.
Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
What did you say?
The mission is a failure. Cut the power right now.
What's wrong with you?
Don't worry, it's a game. It's a game just like usual.
You'll ruin your eyes playing so close to the TV.
What are you talking about?
When it gets to the climactic point of that game, it is so much better that he is talking to clueless dipshit twink-ass Raiden than it would be if he was talking. Can you imagine if he was talking to Snake saying, well, I don't care. Where's a rocket launcher to kill you with? Like, he's not going to care the way that Raiden cares. That's why that character is there. If they didn't get that, I don't know what the fuck Metal Gear they were playing.
And that's why this feels like a little bit new to me in some ways, because Metal Gear Solid 2 had a very prominent black character, and it wasn't mentioned as like being an issue. It was just she's a black character who can't be shot because of magic. And like, I'm just like, hell yeah. Yes, Queen. Her name is Queen.
So
it's not.
Come, put me out of my misery.
Queen.
Don't let them take the president!
But like, at some point, I think it's just more of like these conversations coalesced in a movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I think like those angry nerds were always out there. It's just that they didn't have a unifying banner. Right? Like up until like Gamergate, and then they had a hashtag, and they're like, oh, there are other sick, nasty freaks, not in the good way, derogatory, like us.
And I think,
and like, and that movement has just gained some momentum, and like this whole new version of it is just, it's also like it's upsetting too to me because it's just like I also feel like it's kind of established this formative base for the online right too a little bit. Like it's the strategic arm of the alt-right, right? Because like they invented the terms that are still hanging around that we use in derogatory ways too. SJWs was a thing that came out of Gamergate, right? But we stay, you know, like I still see SJWs out in the alt-right like parlance a lot. And like they're also like really well organized. They're really like in some cases smart, not like, you know, in the good ways, but like
there's infrastructure in place.
They have spreadsheets, right? They go out and they make lists.
That's what they call their porno mags, spreadsheets,
right? And it's just, and it feels kind of bad.
They have a whole ass website.
Yeah,
they have a whole website to tell them which games are too woke to purchase.
Well, and even the videos, I'm like, as much as I hate these videos, they're polished. They have production value, and I'm just like, ugh. They have like movement.
Yeah, I did when I was doing research on my YouTube, which completely destroyed my algorithm, which I'm doing on purpose.
Yeah, okay.
I'm seeing what doing this podcast does to a YouTube algorithm, and all the like Gamergate 2 stuff, even the ones from supposed moderates, always lean to the right-wing perspective on this stuff.
Yeah,
because I kept seeing this thing, Kim Belair, CEO, Sweet Baby Inc., the evilest, most crazy woke devil. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch this speech. And wouldn't you know it, every criticism the gamer had was taken completely out of context because the video itself is 29 minutes. She's completely reasonable and she's right because she talks about that moment in Mass Effect and how that was a nice bit of sort of accidental representation and how her mission is to create non-accidental representation because these types of identities are not expressed because
but Tyler, it's a white dude. I don't see that.
Go
like,
fuck yourself.
All my like but no, they're like, oh, that's fine for you, but like I'm fine too. Don't shove your shit into my shit. Like that's their argument. That's Like, get into the gamer mind. Like, what is there?
I refuse. So the gamer mind is not worthy of respect or welcome in conversation.
In order to destroy the bug, you must understand the bug.
No, to destroy the bug, you shoot the bug. I think you missed the point of that in Starship Troopers.
But you see, they feel like they're being lectured. They feel like they're being lectured, friends, and they don't want to be lectured when they're playing their little game.
Well, maybe if they learn to see other people as human beings, seeing the other human being stories wouldn't feel like a lecture.
Or at the very least, just let them in the sandbox. Right? Like, this is kid shit. This is like, no, only me and my friend get to play in the sandbox.
And I think for people that are as obsessed with video games as a lot of these guys are, which certainly is not something I can criticize somebody about, because I've been obsessed with those things for a long time. But I think the sort of the pre-molded space that a lot of this goo sort of formed in for these guys was the idea of a consumer who wanted different stuff than them that was gonna screw up what the companies produce.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and an early version of this is casuals, right? Filthy casuals.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep.
Right. We're around the time the Wii comes out. Mm-hmm. Oh no, Nintendo's going to spend a bunch of money catering to grandma, and then it's going to take longer for me to get this or get that. It's a capitalist industry. It was always just going to do whatever it was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was always just going to produce art by coincidence when good artists managed to strive their way up into it somehow and make it because it was their dream. And it was always just going to do, shameless cash grabs when it wanted to do that. It's just going to do whatever it wants to do. It's not going to listen to or cater to anybody, but they feel that it is. They have for a long time.
I mean, it mirrors other entertainment industries too. Like, these same arguments that they bring to games, they bring to Netflix. They bring to, television shows, right? They're in the same video. They're complaining about like Lord of the Rings having black characters.
Yes.
Like, there are no black characters in Europe around the time Tolkien was writing Lord of the Rings. But like, there were also no fucking dwarfs.
Yeah. That's the thing that came up too. It's like the author of The Witcher was writing about his Polish ancestry to fight dragons.
Right. It's like all of these arguments are so paper thin.
Hi, question from Miss Bellamy. In episode 2F09, when Ichi plays Scratchy's skeleton like a xylophone, he strikes the same rib twice in succession, yet he produces two clearly different tones. I mean, what are we, to believe that this is some sort of magic xylophone or something?
The black character in God of War Ragnarok ruined my immersion. You mean the story about the Greek god of war carrying around a severed head that speaks to him? Your immersion was thrown when he was killing ice giants because you saw a black person?
Here's the thing. Yes, because they don't see black people.
Right. It's an entirely selfish viewpoint, and this is where I'll say the one thing that I might say where people were going to be, hey, but I'm going to say it. I feel like that appreciating that art form in specific video games, I feel like that the burden of the immersion is more on the player than the company, and that's that. If you say that to one of these guys, they're going to disagree with that. Probably with some harsh words, because that's how they think it should be. They think that if they throw enough money at it, they should be transported, with no effort on their part to a magical other world where they can feel good and relax like they could when they were a kid. So easy.
Oh, yeah.
But that's just not the case. The fact is that when you were a kid, you were better at participating on your end, playing the role of, a character in a fictional story or whatever the game asks of you. And that's why it was funner. They don't want to hear that, but that's how it is. It's down to the person to immerse themselves in the thing.
Yeah, like you bring up a great point where it's like this kind of like fascist nostalgia, right? It's like the past was better. Now, like things are bad, right? And not for like the obvious reasons of like COVID wrecked a lot of game studios, and also like the money faucet turned off, so there's huge layoffs.
Yes,
like they see that as a result of specifically one company, Sweet Baby Inc. And in the past, everything was perfect. When it fucking wasn't.
No.
There were shit games back then too, guys.
Yeah.
Like you only remember it well because you were a kid and everything was good.
Yeah, I'm sure there's nothing racially problematic about the character T-Hawk from Street Fighter.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Everything's fine there.
That would make a good thumbnail for the. you know what I'm thinking of too. I'm thinking of him in the middle of that move where he swoops down from the sky.
Yeah. No, see, I'm thinking of the glowing tomahawk he summons when he does his uppercut.
Oh yeah.
See, a lot of people will use that as like, oh, there actually was racial sensitivity in early games because the creator of the game sought out someone of native heritage to make sure that was okay. And it's like, I guess. Oh, okay.
And part of the problem is that femoids and people like that. The problem is that they have purchasing power also.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the root problem, isn't it? Because capitalism's going to capitalism.
Yeah.
And I'm glad
they're gonna siphon those dollars out. And if bitches would just stay in the kitchen making me a sandwich where they fucking belong, they wouldn't have money.
The kitchen in this case is Stardew Valley and like the other cozy games.
Yeah.
Right? That's really what they mean.
Well, yeah, but you should have your husband buy those for you.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have your own money to be able to purchase a game. And that's what's wrecking everything.
And I think I'm going to go on. I think the one thing that these gamers kind of get right is that games and their playability has gotten worse in the same way that movies have gotten worse. We've got these huge companies, these AAA game making companies juggling recycled IPs over and over again, adding microtransactions just to sort of pump dollars out of games. I think that is a very astute criticism of games, but that is criticizing capitalism. It's not because they added a gay person to the Suicide Squad. It's because the Suicide Squad was just there to milk your dollars incrementally. There wasn't creative heart behind that shit like there isn't with a lot of new games or AAA games, I should say.
It was not the first version of the Suicide Squad, and it won't be the last.
No, like God of War Ragnarok is like the 9th God of War game. It's not bad because there's a black lady in it. It's bad because they're milking the same shit over and over. And it's not going to make you feel like God of War 2, where you did the sex minigame and knocked over the wine jug and saw your first video game titty.
I really like, I think a good example here is, even if stuff is good, I really like Visceral. A company that way back made Dead Space and a video game version of Dante Alighieri's Dante's Inferno,
which is very funny.
They made.
That was a great.
It's great. It was the only one. Nobody else going to make that shit. They were going to do. They were going to do the sequel, to follow along with the whole trilogy and everything.
You fight a vampire with a giant magical cross. That's all you need.
It's awesome. But I really like them. I felt like the stuff they were doing was perfectly balanced between ripping off stuff that everybody likes. Dead Space, famously exactly like Resident Evil 4, not that long after Resident Evil 4, as far as how it played. Immediately felt familiar, that good blend of tension and, I can do this, but no, I can't. Oh no,
Yeah, I've really always wanted to immerse myself in Event Horizon, the movie.
Yeah.
And that's what they delivered to me,
Dante's Inferno being the same way, where they just copy and paste God of War's mechanics into a fun environment that we thought we'd never get to experience in video games, because even video game dorks weren't dorky enough to want to do the Dante Alighieri thing. But lo and behold, it did happen. It was Dante's Inferno. But I really like Visceral, and EA closed Visceral because their Dead Space 3 just didn't make 3 times as much money as the first Dead Space. It just didn't, you guys. Maybe because they shoehorned in a bunch of microtransaction related gun tuning mechanics.
Well, yeah, because you can't just make a game that makes enough money, that makes a good amount of money. You have to make a game that not only makes a bunch of money at the first 2 weeks, but also perpetually brings in a constant stream of massive money. Because if it doesn't, it gets canceled. I don't know if you all have heard the Concord story yet.
Dead Space 3, they shoved multiplayer into that thing. But then EA comes back, years later and remakes the first Dead Space, to close the studio, and then a decade later remake the same good game and make money again.
Right.
I mean, that was a good game. It was a good remake, but it's some of the worst capitalist bullshit you've ever seen. I am not up on the Concord thing.
I know it's on the list of things they have complaints about.
Yeah, because it does have that generic Pixar style a little bit, where everyone's kind of wacky. We're all Joss Whedon. You know, and also like I think there's like a gay alien, and like, that's the one. The gay alien caused this. And anyways, like long story short is that is a game that like was in development for 7 years. Like they spent like $100 million in developing this thing. It was out for a week before they canceled it.
It's that game.
It's that game.
Okay.
You cannot play it anymore because it's an online only service game, right? You can't even, if you wanted to check out to see what this game was, you can't even do that anymore. And they like, you know, Gamergate 2 does not see the obvious thing in front of them, which is, hey guys, this is just bad capitalism.
Yeah, it's
like they see it as like, no, it must be that gay alien.
The same four consultant companies that are destroying everything are destroying games too. They're hollowing out everything you love for pennies.
And I love gay aliens.
And I love pennies, but we can't have both.
And like, well, and the thing is too, is like they still they see themselves as the majority, right? Without realizing that this market is like, it's a global market now. And in like, really, the thing I kept on thinking about is like, they were complaining like, you should listen to us, the majority of people playing these games. Like, dude, the majority of people playing games right now is China. Like that means you're just gonna like have a game full of Chinese people, which would be funny actually.
Hey, as someone who's been learning Mandarin, I'm great with that.
Right. Or like India or something, like, you know, like if you wanted a true representative sample, there wouldn't be that many white people in it.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, but they don't see that though. They see it as
they see the hair on Aloy's face and they get freaked out because a woman's got a beard.
Right.
When really women have hair on their bodies.
And like this is all indicative of like the name Gamergate, because I'm like, why are we even doing a sequel? Why is this thing even named Gamergate? It's because it's a conspiracy theory. Because like, well, there's no logical explanation to like what their arguments are, so it has to be illogical ones, right? It has to be like, no, this is like Nixon hired some. And the cool thing about gate as a prefix, by the way, postfix, is that like it adds some credence to the conspiracy. It's like it's a conspiracy theory, but it's real, you know, because like that shit with Nixon actually did happen,
right?
Right, and so like
they tried to do it a million times when Trump was president. They tried to everything that happened, you would tune in the news and they would call it blank gate or whatever,
right? Because it's like it sounds crazy, you guys, but it's real.
By the way, you know this is about money. Strives to make the world a better place. Judging by gaming standards of today, everything is a bloated mess, way over budget, while LARPing about giving a damn about anything other than public perception and turning a profit. The biggest investors of the ESG, you might wonder, well, you guessed it, BlackRock and Vanguard, the two companies that so lovingly bought up American homes during the pandemic.
And like, you know, like they're trying to say that Sweet Baby Inc., this like 10-person, 15-person company somehow touched every single game out there.
Yeah.
And is like causing the downfall of Western civilization.
The controversy comes from someone making a list on Steam saying, hey, Sweet Baby Inc. works with DEI and they worked on this game. But it all boils down to something is only woke and bad if they don't like it. Because they said Spider-Man 2, woke and bad because they didn't like it. Alan Wake 2, not so woke, pretty great game. Even though Sweet Baby Inc. worked on Alan Wake 2.
I mean, they do complain about Alan Wake 2, but like the complaints kind of lessened a little bit because people realized that it bopped, it was good.
It's so insane. It was maddening watching them talk about all this stuff they hated. And they're like, oh, but Alan Wake actually is kind of good. And it's like, you're mad at games you don't like. And they say, this is the thing that came up over and over again, was that when you focus on DEI initiatives and hiring DEI type people, that you...
What's a DEI type person?
Food there.
That's what they say. I have watched hours of this shit all week. But when you focus on hiring DEI people, that's what they say, you will... I wrote the quote down. Focusing on demographics will lead to a lack of innovation and creativity as DEI people are somehow less innovative or have worse ideas. That's their argument. When you focus on who the person you're hiring is demographically, you might not hire the white genius who creates the next great game because obviously DEI people will not have genius ideas.
Had to have those hype style individuals in there. Like, at the end of the day, it's just so obvious. It's okay. It's all the answers to this are so obvious. You're not having as much fun with video games as you did as a bright-eyed child. Okay, super obvious. And a consulting company does under capitalism the same thing in every industry every time, which is sit athwart the rising wave of an obvious trend, pretend to guide a bunch of out-of-touch old people that own the company through it, and make a shit ton of money. I mean, like, what? But the answers to this shit are all so obvious.
Here's the real bad thing of it, though, is that they're winning a little bit. Like, because the thing I wanted to bring up was Stellar Blade. Stellar. Did you run into that?
Oh,
yeah,
I did.
So Tyler, what is a pussy bone? Well, maybe I should give this to the wider group. What is a pussy bone? Or a pubic bone? What do they call it?
They call it
As I
pussy bone.
understand
I think they call it a pussy bone. Yeah.
It's a pussy bone. What's a pussy bone?
So,
As I understand it, it's a protruding hip bone visible in the midriff area of a drawing. Usually a Japanese drawing.
Okay, so it's like the top parts of the pelvis, like the two like kind of little wings.
On men, this would be called a cum gutter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a triangle dick muscle. That is the way that I've heard it phrased.
So like a Brad Pitt situation.
Yes.
Okay.
Like a Tyler Durden kind of
I see.
kind of hip thing going on.
All right.
It's especially prominent if the guy you hire to design your game is Hyung-tae Kim, a Korean illustrator, who did some really great work back in the PS2 era on Magna Carta, an unappreciated role-playing game series.
Damn, dude.
Incredible costumes, incredible costumes. Okay,
I did not think I would hear the word Magna Carta in the year of our Lord 2024.
The ladies had big, thick thighs, like the Korean style anime guys like. They had big boobies. It was really cool designed, really cool costumes. That is the guy that designed Stellar Blade, and that game looks like sex dolls in one pieces. It is boring as hell.
I'd like to defend the perverts. I'd like to defend the perverts for 1 second.
Oh, the pervert defender's logged on.
Yeah. Hello.
They're getting ripped off on this one.
Like, there's nothing wrong with like playing a perverted game where you get your rocks off and like I'm having fun and a boner. Like that's fine.
Yes.
You could have that, right? But not every game has to be this.
Yeah.
Right? Like not every game has to be you making you rock hard 24/7.
And when it is, it gets boring too. It makes the things not unique anymore. Like, how do you guys, you gamers, how do you guys think mid to late 90s Chun-Li on the Dreamcast feels now that you insist that all the ladies have the big sexy thighs? How do you think you're making the lady that used to be noticeably like that? How do you think you're making everything the same? She should beat your ass with the upside down whirlwind kick. No, they would.
I feel like I need to explain some terms.
Breaking
because,
your
like,
immersion.
Yeah,
I just gotta say, like,
it's not always about immersion.
Like when they get into like the jiggle physics of things, or like when you're talking about like you know the pussy bone. Like, oh, these women magically have adipose tissue.
Which is bad.
On their they got it on their tits. That's good. They got it on their ass. That's good. They got it on their thighs. That good. But strangely, none in the abdominal area.
Listen, they have a strict training regimen, you know, like Chun-Li does, like all she does is spin upside down all day. So like, you know, it's causing.
The fat's getting pushed to the ass and the boobs.
Yeah.
She's spinning.
We're all just like in a big centrifuge and like, you know, leaning. But I mean, you know, like I said, clearly like people aren't thinking of people like me when they're designing these things.
And it has wider repercussions too, right? Like there are young dudes out there who think that's my woman. That's who I'm gonna marry. Someone who looks like that.
And you'll notice because like a lot of my perspective on this shit is like from getting like deeply into looking into like red pill type things, and like I lurked in the red pill forum on Reddit like before it got banned for a couple years. I read all those like pickup artist books and shit like that, because like you were saying, know your enemy, right?
What'd you get banned for?
Oh, no. The actual forum
got it got banned. Okay, yeah. That was
I'm sure it's back in. I'm sure it's back in some form or another. But that was kind of my sign that like, yeah, like reading all this shit is probably not that healthy for me anyway. But yeah, it's like these unrealistic, like the basically NPCs. Like when you have a woman involved, it's like I said, it's on the fuckability index, like whether they find them acceptable or not. And what they find fuckable is not what humans actually look like.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
you will never find an anime person in real life.
Right.
They don't
So
exist.
and when you get into the whole like incel, the government ought to issue me a girlfriend type thinking.
Or on the left, it's called sexual mutual aid.
Right. But that
Comrade.
whole thing, part of the complaint is not that I can't have a woman. It's that I can't have a woman who's up to my standards.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you spend 15 hours a day, like, online playing video games, what are your standards going to look like?
Like they would never admit that their standards are like that too. I think it hits the subconscious. It hits right in the pawns, you know, hits that lizard brain where like they don't even acknowledge that part of themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just happen to find every woman ugly and they don't know why, right? You know, and that's why they're so obsessed with like, oh no, Aloy from Horizon has peach fuzz on her face. Which means a beard. Obviously, it's a
And
beard.
lot of that stuff, if they must have a deep conspiracy reason that this stuff is happening, like there's a million better explanations than, you know, corporations just think DEI equals money. The first thing that comes to my mind is doing all the subsurface scattering and, you know, more sliders on the character designer and more hairs appearing on the body, is that they're just selling video cards, right? I mean, isn't that the more obvious, like...
I mean, I think it's a considered effort from game devs. Like, they know what they're doing and they hate it, right? And so, like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, Aloy gets a little bit of a hair. You know, like
it takes a lot more polygons to render a DEI chin and a Madam's apple than it does to render PS1 Lara Croft's face.
But like, you know, I think part of it is just like, you know, the game developers are a very aware bunch, I think.
Yeah.
And they know like that games have a reputation and they're tired of having to defend their profession from people saying like, oh, you're the perverts that make like bitchy Lara Croft, right? Like, no, like, you know, and like that's why there's so much of internal push for this. Like, you know, if there is there is one, right? Because like there has been more diversity in games. And part of that is because from, you know, top down instructions of like, you know, well, they can make X money, but also like, you know, the internal drive of like, yeah, actually, I think it would be better if we did make these a little bit diverse, right? Like but it's not a conspiracy. It's just like normal people are entering games and saying like, we should make people.
And that's a good thing.
It's a good thing, right? Like, and sometimes like, you know, sometimes I will admit that like, you know, diversity gets shoved in a way that feels awkward, right? But that's
the Spider-Man thing is crazy because if they want an example from comic books, did they not see the Black Thor thing? Did they miss Biotin's fade? Did they miss out on that? Did you guys see the thing?
I saw that.
Yeah, and
Marvel is not elegant when they shoehorn something in just because they think they should. They never have been.
Yeah,
like
there
at
have
some
been bad
point, Stan Lee
attempts,
just
right?
decided, do we know anybody at Northrop Grumman? You know, like, I mean, it's not an elegant like thing when they do it. But the Spider-Man thing is obviously organic and just normal.
But like that's why like you have to have this air of like everything's perfect. Right, like every single, you know, diversity attempt we make has to be flawless. Otherwise, they'll get us because it's true. Like otherwise, they will totally like, you know, dogpile some kind of mildly awkward attempt at it.
But what these dumb fucking gamers don't understand is that, I'm sorry, gamers, they will replace you. They've done it before because
comics.
I was going to say Nick Fury was white for 40 years and now he's black because in the Ultimates, they made Nick Fury black because it doesn't matter what race Nick Fury is. And now that Nick Fury is Samuel L. Jackson, that's who he is forever. I remember that it used to be David Hasselhoff. I remember the Punisher Nick Fury fucking 2-player game. And I don't give a fuck because I think it's a good forward change. Fucking Batman should be black. Who gives a fucking shit? It doesn't fucking matter. It opens up new avenues of stories. And these fucking idiots don't understand it's going to happen whether they go along with it or not, because fuck them.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Yes. And it not to mention the fact that, you know, the show's got to go on, that it's entertainment, that people are always looking for something different. Hell, before you could record any of this shit, when the only way to do these fantasies was to have a bunch of guys make a bunch of costumes and shit and go out on stage every night and do the whole thing that they memorized over and over again, it would be a different guy doing the role as time passed. Like, it's not just like a new thing.
It's going to be Harrison Ford forever.
People out of these classic characters. It's the oldest thing.
It's wild. It's fucking wild.
That's why I was kind of surprised like Miles Morales was still a thing, because it's just like, oh, actually no, that's a perfect substitution. It's like Samuel Jackson, like, oh, of course he should be black. What are you talking about?
And what's maddening about all this shit is when they complained like, oh, they made the women uglier. This is DEI. And it's like, no, they just made the woman look like the actress portraying them. And then when the game flops because it's a badly developed, badly constructed game, they get to say, I was right, it flopped because she had pussy bones and a chin.
Yeah, that's why Lord of the Rings is doing poorly, is because there's a black elf or whatever.
Right.
It's like, no, it's because
that
of Jeff
fucking
Bezos.
show is incomprehensible and boring.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced I have not met a single person in my real life who's watched that show. I'm the only person I know, and I watched 2 episodes, and I was like, this is not for me. It sucks.
But I do want to go back. I want to go back to the point where like they are kind of winning, right? Where because like those arguments do stick with executives. Like, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe it was because of the black elf. Surely it's not. We're incompetent.
They don't need the right answer. They just need an answer to tell an investor about where the money went.
Right. Yes. As long as it's not their fault, they're happy to adopt it. Right. And so like there's some traction to the argument of the diversity made the game bad. And like it sucks. And like I don't quite know how to argue against it, because I'm not going to argue for Lord of the Rings. I'm not going to say that was good.
When you're talking to them, there's no reason to ever play devil's advocate or take their side in any way, shape, or form. Because
honestly, I'm not talking to them. Nobody's talking to them.
No, I don't talk to those people.
But you can't really talk to them.
But because it's for the execs, that would make a very handy type of argument, because that's easier to fix, right? Oh, we made our game too woke and it flopped. I guess we can't be making woke games anymore, rather than having to investigate why the game was bad.
And they have that bias anyways. Like, you know, like Blizzard, the famous game company Blizzard, like is notorious for like being a traditional gamer, let's call them.
Yeah, straight, white, cis piece of shit. Oh, you mean the people who had the sweet hotel room that was the Cosby suite where they would joke about bringing drug women to? They have some problems?
Your joke didn't have hard quotation marks around it. Because the answer is that they would just bring...
Ain't that where the guy who's kind of the star of Gamergate 2 used to work when he had one real job, apparently, in his whole life? Ain't that where Mark Kern used to work at old Blizzard?
Yep, that's him.
Yeah, and so it's like, I'm sure Blizzard's going to be more than happy to revert back to its ways. Because, like, you know, Overwatch, one of their star games, like, you know, it was a diverse cast of people, and nobody had problems with it until it started doing poorly, right? Because of bad decisions on their end. But like, I almost guarantee they're going to blame like, you know what? It's because we had the trans Russian lady, right? Or it's like, you know,
and not that people have played hero shooters for 22 hours a day for 6 years or whatever. Not that.
Yeah, or they made a sequel to a game that was exactly like the first game, but they just wanted to make more money out of it. Like, you know, there's so many other reasons why this game failed, but like, the executives have the bias to do this, and now they have the excuse to do this because they can say, look at all these people that are so mad. And I almost guarantee like it's gonna roll back, and we're gonna have to go back to like the only really open space being an indie game space, right? And
Custer's Revenge 3, or 2, however many Custer's Revenge.
I'm sure there was a sequel.
To the credit of the whining Gamergate idiots, they do at least on some basic spinal cord lizard brain level understand that the conversation that they're trying to have is exclusively between them and the money behind the like producers and directors and stuff. Like they completely ignore and shoot around the artists that actually create these images that they're so concerned about. The most glaring example I can think of, have you guys seen Masahiro Ito's Twitter account? It's the character designer from Silent Hill. They brought him back around to consult on the remake for Silent Hill 2. And, I'm having the pleasure of going through that right now. It's fucking great. The monsters are his exact monsters that were in his imagination 23 years ago, brought to life once again in higher fidelity, more precise. Everything about them is better. But he posts on Twitter, and he participates sometimes in discussions about whether or not they wokeified that thing. And he'll tell those guys to their face, no, I did it, the way I always wanted to do it. This was my vision. This is how it's supposed to be. And they'll talk around him as if he's not even there. They'll say, well, I still interpret your work a certain way.
And even worse, the thing that they're mad about is that the sexual assault victim in this game isn't sexy enough. Yeah. It sounds like I'm making a joke, but I'm not. Yeah. That's their argument.
She's not rapeable.
Exactly. No. Yes, though, but that's what they're saying. And I'm just like, fuck. What? How do you talk to those people? I mean, honestly, one of the things that they see themselves against a wall. Like the video that I watched said suicide in young men raised right after 2018, which is when a lot of the DEI initiatives came in.
In the face of gaming into the diversity and inclusion mess that we all face today.
No one's ever going to say that self-deletion rates in males jumped drastically after Gamergate because no one wants to admit that it didn't help anything and made gaming a worse and more toxic place. I guess everything just has to be inclusive, and things that are made for the masses is homogenous and not specialized to a certain niche group, therefore making the art diluted and less impactful or meaningful, and removed another safe space for young males to go, to bond, and feel that they have solace or a place to belong, somewhere where they could feel value, or escape the harsh realities of being a male. Oh well, guess I'll take HRT.
They see themselves as being killed off. They're being hunted, but by themselves because they're so sad that there are no titties in this game. And it's just
they're doing the male virgin suicides. That's so good.
And it's a group of dedicated fucking nasty shitheads. And I think we should put them on the spectrum of hate. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I think it's about time.
It's about time to put them on.
Who's gonna play another song?
Spectrum of hate.
So here on Hate Speech, we have what's called the spectrum of hate, where we rank the things we've talked about on a spectrum because we believe spectrums are the only nuanced way to discuss things. So at the very evil end of this spectrum, the worst thing, the thing you hate the most, one Adolf Hitler. The other end of the spectrum, someone that you just can't help but love, never does anything wrong, and if he does, we'll never learn about it, is one LeVar Burton.
Awesome.
So, I think this is gonna go pretty low on the list.
This is bad. This is real bad because not only
it feels like a nucleus.
It's regressive to people as individuals. It's regressive to society. It will cause innocent game developers to be harassed, journalists to be harassed, and worst of all, the most evil, stupid people on the planet will make money off of it.
Well, it feels like it's an engine of hate. Right, where it's just all the things that we have on this list. For example, Adam Carolla probably wouldn't be popular if it weren't for, to a certain extent, the Gamergate philosophy, right?
Yeah,
of us white, young, or old men are being persecuted.
Right.
And so
I think it's worse than Adam Carolla.
I think it's worse than transphobia in sports.
Oh, you think it's the closest to Hitler?
I think it's the closest to Hitler.
I was going to say it's because it's transphobia in sports plus, right?
Yeah. I feel like it leads into that, right? I subscribe to Gamergate philosophy. Therefore, I think that the women's athletic team in the Olympics are actually secretly men.
Right.
Yeah. An engine
they have
of
the
hate
wrong pussy bones and they have Madam's apples.
Yeah, that's right. The Madam's apple comes from Gamergate. And so they're doing transvestigation without even knowing it.
Well, they did transvestigate the new animated Lara Croft. Can you imagine doing gender ideology on a fake character? This is so fucking stupid. These people are stupid.
All I can do is like draw the triangle of somebody leaning into their girlfriend. That's the best I can do.
I promise, wokeness will not hurt you. Like, it's fine. Jesus Christ.
I'm scared. What if I'm not really a man?
Okay, here's the thing. I do not support genocide at all, except for white genocide on gamers. Like, that I will support.
Yeah. They should leave. They should go.
They should go.
I mean, because like really, like fuck, dude. Like if you're that fucking broken as a person that you're spending all of your time, and sometimes it's sad. Is where it lands. It's just like you're such a fucking broken person at a certain point that you just can't stop yourself.
And the only outlet you have to salve the pain inside is to yell at a woman.
Right.
You are fucking worthless.
Yeah, like
I'm coming in right above Hitler as well. I'm with you guys on this because okay, let's say for a minute that the thing that every video game dork has believed their whole life in their heart is true.
That we could bring Eris back to life.
We can do it.
Yes,
we can finally do
video
it.
Games are a nascent and transcendental art form that is the next thing after cinema, and it's going to carry humanity's shared imagination on a boat of dreams into the future. That it actually is the big important thing that us dorks all think it is. Well, if that's the case, then the guys who are supposed to be watching the gate for it not to turn into a microtransaction riddled gray slurry of corporate slop are all mad about some stupid shit all the time and not doing their job, and that's why it's so bad. Like it's really bad.
Because like I'm not gonna have the games are art conversation because I'm tired.
And I think we'd all agree that games can be art.
Yeah, like it's a medium of like any other, right? Like film is art, books are art, comics are art. Like it's all art. It's a human expression. And like as a result of that, you have to allow humanity in.
Yes.
And they're not letting that happen to an extent that they're willing to like say, no, I will kill you if you try to let humanity in.
Humanity, but fuckable.
It has to be fuckable.
Because they don't believe that people who aren't like them are humans. Yeah. Really.
It's fascist.
and like I said, the other thing exactly. And the other thing I think that like really puts it up there on the spectrum of hate is that it's so fucking insidious because like you're saying, you guys prior to this didn't know really that all this like I'm sure you had heard complaints about video games, but you didn't know like how deep the rabbit hole was, right?
Yeah, that's how you can tell.
And you're a gamer.
Yeah. I mean, well, I knew, but like the thing is I know and avoid, right? Because it's unhealthy to watch all this. Like it is. We're doing this because I don't want you to. I don't want the listeners to go out and like raw dog this hate. Like it sucks.
Not
like
research this shit.
Yeah, I baseline live with a gun in my mouth pretty much at all times. But the point that had me pull the hammer back, ready to pull the trigger, was when I saw them getting so close to an actual critique of capitalism and then blame it on a black woman. I was like, no, you idiots, you are so close. You can learn. You can be taught.
But that's how strong their hate is that even if it's so obvious, they can't see it.
I know, and that's what hurts so bad because you're right there. You're right fucking there. It's not the black woman from Mad TV in your Star Wars game. It's the fucking white guy who said, no, this needs more maps, more microtransactions. It's the people in charge. It's not the people making the game. It's the people pushing them towards profit. You fucking morons.
Yeah. And even the precious single player game is now relegated because it can't be riddled up like that. They think they're winning on that shit. And that thing is relegated to, well, we're just going to remake this every 5 or 10 years with better graphics and just sell it to you again.
It has to be as safe of an investment as possible.
2030 Resident Evil 4 remake. Let's go.
But like, you know, that's how strong their hate is, right?
Yeah.
Is that like you can have so much evidence and so much like humanity be ignored because they hate so much anyone who is not representative of them and their ideals. and I'm sorry, dudes, you're hanging out with Hitler. I don't know what else to say. I want to help you.
Yeah.
But like I'm not that skilled. I cannot help you. There's no help that like, I'm sure there's some like humanitarian genius out there who's like, I can help them.
And his name is Elon Musk. He runs X the Everything website. Like our guests, Juniper and LG, they have a podcast on there. I'm trying to segue.
No, that's good. That's good.
I'm trying to segue.
You can do that.
LG, Juniper, tell the people about your shit. I've been on that. You all should have Nate on there to talk more about game stuff. What is going on with y'all's life?
You want to learn about Mappy?
Over there on the website, Twitter, which, as the listeners may know, has turned into a Nazi pedophile-infested shithole.
No, it's okay. You can block those people, though, right?
We take advantage.
I see what you did there.
We take advantage of a feature that was installed when it was kind of a thing, called Spaces, where you just have an account and you can go in there and you can get a microphone and you can kick it with us on a Wednesday night around 9 p.m. Eastern. I, of course, being your host, Christopher Gadsden, and joined as always by my tireless producer and wellness advisor, one Juniper Ness. And Lee's on there, and we'll have guys from we do Sons of Tree Air, it's another podcast. Do that Friday nights sometimes when I get a chance. Juniper still gets to do a lot. We'll have guys from that show on there, like guys from your show, guys from other shows.
I can definitely use some wellness after this.
Yeah, and I personally got to say, the community y'all have cultivated are like super cool, really welcoming. There's not a boring, shitty one amongst them that I have found, which is fucking
I feel like it's an antidote to our show where we bring people down. I think they don't.
Well, because I mean, one of the core things of the show, like it all started. LG was working second shift, and by midweek, he would basically just be wanting to, well, like you were saying, like just sort of, when do I thumb back the am I going to pull the trigger or not? And rather than doing that, he started yelling at people on the internet. And we created a little community for how the fuck do you cope in this capitalist hellscape? There's some things that you can change. There's some things that you can't change. If you can do something about it, what do you do? If you can't, like, what do you do in the meantime to, keep yourself off that edge? And
so it's like AA for like hell. Like, oh, okay, I accept the things that I can't change in hell.
I called that thing mindful wellness sarcastically because it was a phrase that I saw floating around as like just some kind of intangible thing. A lot of people in the Web3 space,
like an anti-racist baby.
Yes, yes. I saw that phrase floating around, and I just instantly despised it. And I started calling the thing that, and then a bit in the early episodes of the show was that people would come in there and I'd give them a microphone and then I'd ask them what the hell they thought mindful wellness was. Like, what are you doing here? What is this? And I always thought it was funny, but most of the people that I did it to didn't think it was funny and left immediately and were probably creeped out for days. But it ended up that we discovered that, some of the deep breathing exercises and visualization exercises and all the cheesy stuff that you may have done with anybody from a therapist all the way to a theater teacher throughout your life. If you think back, some of it was actually relaxing or good. And maybe we're allowed to do a little bit of that. We'll start out doing it ironically, end up doing it seriously, just like everything else that goes on now, right?
So like with me, with like drugs, it's like I started doing them ironically.
Right.
I'm doing a bit smoking this crystal. It's like, I gotta have my meth,
But
like I think that there's this cringe. I hate using the word cringe because I feel like Gamergate people are taking cringe, but like there's this cringe taint to mental wellness that that you are trying to fix. It feels like where it's like. No, like, listen, it doesn't have to be nerdy weird shit.
No, and honestly, ingesting most of this Gamergate stuff started to infect my brain with unwellness because I looked at that poster for the new Karate Kid movie with Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio, and I'm like, they're doing white genocide by not having Cobra Kai in there. And I realized I needed to kill myself.
But you're right, though.
But no, you're right though that you really kind of can't help them. But I will try to help them.
They have to help themselves. They have to.
They can come in and get well, or we will mercilessly mock them and
mercilessly mock them,
make them feel like shit, and then they'll run away because people are big babies.
Yeah, to quote your hero, Tyler, John Waters, "Fix your heart or die."
That's David Lynch. That's David Lynch.
I'm sorry, but okay, but John Waters would agree.
John Waters, a recent quote of his that I like is that I miss the noble pervert.
Okay.
Yes. We have nothing but noble perverts in the mindful wellness.
Yes.
Now I think we should go around as a group here with our final thought on Gamergate 2.
Okay.
Oh, I was going to tell them where to find us.
Oh, yeah, you can find us.
That's your final thought.
Yeah. It's like you mentioned, it's because it's a live show every week, Wednesdays, 9 p.m. We're using Twitter's infrastructure until it crashes and burns. Because fuck you, Elon Musk. We're not paying for shit. But we also simulcast on Twitch.
Mm-hmm. And we will have all the links in our show notes as well.
Why, thank you, sir.
Of course. I think my last thought on Gamergate 2.
Okay.
And I know I'm going to catch some shit for this, but I'm brave enough to say it. Deborah Wilson is hot. Always has been. Always will be. She should be in more video games.
It's a power thing.
What do you mean a power thing?
She's powerful.
What?
I'm sorry, but the accent was too good. We can do the rest after it.
Jesus.
Everyone else will get a chance after that.
Now, can we please let our wonderful guests say their thoughts?
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
I have no thoughts. My brain's smooth like egg.
This is perfect to have it where you can paste it in if you want, because this one I don't know if you want this one or not. But I'll do it seriously. Okay, I'll give the gamers a taste of the kind of help that I can offer if they're willing to come around, they're willing to open their hearts to some other points of view.
Okay.
They think that they got this great website built. They got the DEI detected website, and that, however long this lasts until Gamergate 3 or if it never comes back up again, they'll at least, the little piece of progress they made was they'll at least have a website they can check to see if something is DEI infected or not, to see if something is based or not. But that thing, it sucks. There is a zillion games that are not listed on there. There is a huge blind spot on there that I detected the other day. I was looking for one of the least woke games ever made on that website. Like, well, surely, I thought surely they're going to say that this is DEI free, right? It's the least woke thing ever made. And I looked up a classic PC game, Revolution 60. And it was not even on the website. It wasn't even listed. Now, this is a game designed by a hot lady who's very right-wing, extremely right-wing, was dragged out of college for spewing racial epithets about a Middle Eastern professor, to some accounts, allegedly. The very right-wing lady made this thing, and it is nothing but, 6'2" white Barbie dolls with pointy chins shooting each other on the fucking moon, okay? It is like every Gamergate guy's fantasy, this game. It's a little old, hasn't really aged well. The cinematics are kind of clunky. But content-wise, if the DEI detected website is a real thing that you guys are serious about, you got to have Revolution 60 listed on there as one of the most pro gamer games of all time. I mean, it is. There's nothing woke in there. It's just Barbie ladies. It's just your dolls, in space with guns. And the fact that that's not on there is a serious problem with the seriousness of this movement. I mean, are you guys serious or not? Okay, yeah, you guys can pick whether you want to cut that in or not.
When you said you wanted to help gamers and you had one way that could help them, I thought for sure you were just going to start firing a gun.
Well, do you think that'll work? Do you think any of them will actually go investigate Revolution 60 and be like, well, he's right,
No, like, I'm going to investigate it. I've not heard of this game. But
oh, really?
I think
is that the Brianna Wu one?
Yes, it is.
No. Oh, is it?
It's Brianna's game.
Is it really?
Oh, God.
Yes.
Oh, no. I'm so glad we did not talk about Brianna Wu.
It is one of the worst video games ever made.
Okay.
Ever.
That's why I don't know about it.
Nate and I were talking. No, go ahead.
It's her burning a giant pile of mommy and daddy's money to pretend to have a job is what it is.
Okay.
But it is all big booby white ladies shooting each other. That's all that it is. And, if they're serious about their principles, it has to go on that website as being DEI free. Has to.
I was saying before we started this that Nate and I were like, yeah, we can't really talk about Brianna Wu because we don't have all the facts ready. And we were saying, yeah, the only reason we really, really hate Brianna Wu is because she's a woman.
Yeah.
That's good.
And she does have a suspiciously ethnic last name, even though she's white.
Yeah.
Yeah, DEI. She's using DEI to get ahead in the gaming industry.
I have no follow-up. I think gamers won't like that game, though, because there's too much vagina. They're afraid of that. They're afraid of that thing.
Oh, there's no self-insert character.
Yeah.
That's so funny because gamers they definitely can't self-insert either. They need help.
They need help for self-inserting. They need help with immersion.